Welcome back to Let's Talk Careers. I'm so excited to bring another incredible guest. Today we are speaking with Circa Coyle, who is a career and money strategist. Welcome, Circa. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Hi, Maria. Thank you so much for having me.
We're going to be talking about what's next for a teacher if they're looking for that next career milestone, that next career step. And I love that you're also a money strategist, because in the work that you do with teachers, I'm sure that this conversation about, well, what about money? Will I be able to afford taking that next step? So let's jump right into it.
So I've been working with expat teachers for the last few years. And on one hand, I help teachers secure top paying international jobs so they can save six figures. And then I also help them then leave teaching for a new career that they love.
Would you say that that's something that teachers often think about during their job roles as teachers, or does that come in at a different time on the journey?
A lot of teachers who come to me, teaching is all consuming, like you know, Maria. So sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees when you're in the thick of like a school inspection and reports and meetings and exam pressure. And so it is really hard to think of like the bigger overall plan. And that's sort of where I suppose I would come in, just helping teachers seeing the bigger plan of how they want their life to look, how they want their new career to look. 'Cause it's all intertwined. It's not the matter of just, someone coming to me and saying, what should I do? And no one can tell you that. You have to do a lot of exploration. I think people underestimate the amount of exploration and research and curiosity that goes into that. But it's so worth it. I mean, if anyone can Google top, 20 careers for teachers, or new careers, there'll be a list of things, but it really depends on the individual, like where they want to end up, who they are, what their strengths are. And I think as well as teachers, we have so many skills, we do so many things, which I do think contributes to teacher exhaustion, because we have so many duties. So the idea is we want to see what you want to do more of and what you want to do less of in your new career. It's not just about necessarily doing everything again, in a new career.
Definitely believe that there are numerous transferable skills that we gain as teachers. And I would see it also almost as a limitation. I think we take it for granted, all those different things that we do. Now, I know we're kind of hopping in already, but let's go backwards a little bit. When I think about my career as an educator, working from nursery children all the way up to undergrad students right now, when I think about that journey as an educator, it has really, really evolved. But the one thing that always stands out for me, and I wonder if this is common with your experience and maybe with your teachers as well, is that world of academia. It's almost like a world of its own, where our professional development as educators always revolves around what we do in education, and never really about our career outside of education. Would you say that's something that you've also experienced, and some of your clients? And if so, how do you help teachers overcome that limited mindset of like, my professional development should just be about my role and the world of academia?
That's a really good point. I know, you talk to some teachers and they're like, I'm already fed up with teaching. I'm exhausted. I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed. I'm not enjoying it. I think I'll do a master's in education. I'm like, hey, like 10 grand, I'm like, and I think it's number one, a distraction, I think, from the job. I think as teachers, we love learning, even if it's something, it just distracts us from the current role. But I always say to people, like, it's not, the job will be the same when you come back. You know what I mean? So think twice, I would say. What I would say is really for people to think even like 2 to 5 years ahead. And like, do you honestly see yourself in the classroom? And if the answer is no, well, then start like seriously considering yourself, because there's all this investment and time and effort and energy being put into doing courses and qualifications that are really just for teaching. Yes, that's great. We are lifelong learners, but actually, let's be honest, if you don't see yourself, and I have some like clients who don't see themselves in a year or two's time, so it's like, let's take a pause. You probably already know enough anyway about your job. You don't necessarily need to do a qualification, but sort of getting then really clear and actually, what do I want my life to look like in 5 years? And that can be my life, that can be my career, the pace of life, it can be where I live, it can be my daily routine, it can be my daily dream life when I go to work every day. What time am I getting up at? Where am I working? Who am I with? And you might need me that specific of what exactly the next career is, but you will have a very good idea of like what we don't want, I'm sure. Like based on our past bosses, past schools, I definitely don't want this. Okay, then what do I want? And then really, I would say starting the new career exploration as kind of as soon as you can, because things change as well. Like as expats, we may have to go home because family reasons or, whatever it might be. I mean, I know in some schools when teachers are very expensive, they're looking for cheaper candidates, right? And you may unwittingly get, your contract might be cut and you're like, actually, it's not worth my time anymore. So I think when you start to feel like that, and like I've had my clients and teachers come to me, I'm like, how long do you want to leave teaching? And they're like, for the last 5 or more years. That's a long time to want to have left your job, So I would say the minute you start feeling like that and you can't envision yourself working in teaching in international school, for me, that's the time to start exploring others and using those things like dream career, dream life, and our dreams and aspirations. We're so busy with reports and different things, so just allowing yourself that time to like really think, what do I want? Because, a lot of us kind of follow that path. A lot of us like fell into teaching. We kind of just went along that route. We just kind of were pulled along because our parents told us, or, we enjoyed it, but we never really took time to think, geez, how do I want to design my life? How do I want my career to look? A lot of us haven't, myself included. I just kind of fell into teaching. I never really wanted to do it. I loved it when I did it, but it wasn't like my goal in life or anything.
I'm listening to you right now and I'm thinking about interviews I've had with individuals, professionals working in other industries. When I talk to them about their career journey and what they're planning, they're not thinking in terms of the job role. They're thinking in terms of opportunity and progression. And I wonder sometimes if it's how we're ingrained to believe that teaching is not a job. It's almost like a purpose, right? We're teachers. Like I see the pedestal rising up into the sky with a teacher sitting right on top. It's like this, this calling, this vocational calling that, we're teachers. We're not in it for the money. We're not in it for our egos. We're in it to help make the world a better place. And I'm sure you can hear my sarcasm underneath everything I'm saying right now. But when I speak with professionals in other industries, they're thinking about opportunity, not just the job. It's not the job title. They're almost ready to take on another opportunity if it means that they'll be progressing in their career, they'll be making more money. They're not as loyal to the job title as I see teachers being. Now, when you work with clients, how do you help them disconnect from teaching as their identity and reconnect to what is it that you want to be using your skills doing in that next milestone? Does that even come into the conversation? Are teachers open to that? And if not, how would you help them to look differently at what they do?
That is something I've had to work on myself, I think, and also with a lot of clients and teachers, particularly, I think, high performing independent women. Our identity is our successes. And that can be teachers or non-teachers sometimes. And it's, I think, separating just yourself from all external successes, achievements, knowing that you are worthy and you are great just as you are. And these are bonuses. You are a good person regardless if you manage to leave teaching and change in 2 months, or it might take you maybe a year and a bit and you have to do like a bit of part-time teaching on the side. But once you know what your goal is and you're working toward it, I think removing that like those imposed deadlines, particularly when people, if they've wanted to leave for 5 or more years, and then I'm like, it won't take 5 more years to leave, but it's going to take more than like 2 months. You have to, like, there's beliefs there. There's an inner critic, there's voices, there's stuff there that has stopped you from taking the plunge before, and that all needs to be addressed. Like my first 2 group, like bigger sessions, are all on mindset. They're all on addressing the beliefs and the negative thoughts that have stopped you doing something that you've wanted to do for years. Like we spent just purely on that, because you need to have the tools to develop that resilience, to keep the momentum up, to address those, because if you never really will leave if you don't address all those first of all. So I think, yeah, like just getting rid of that, be no longer being a teacher. It's like, this is who I am, and these are my positives, and this is why my friends and family love me, and these are my strengths, this is what I love doing, and this is my passion, and these are my values, and this is what I want my purpose in life to be. And regardless of what happens after that, you're still a great person. I think it's that kind of detachment and not measuring self-worth in terms of success. And so I think it's important for people to realize, I think as teachers, the path to teaching is so straightforward. Like, we knew what we had to do and we did it. And we went to this school, and maybe we became head of department, and maybe some of us went up higher. Like, it's very clear cut. And there's only one outcome, really, in a way. So I think people apply that to career change. Like, I have to have one option, that's it. I'm like, well, first of all, no. We have a plan A, plan B, plan C. And there's a great book. It's Bill Burnett. It's Design Your Life, I think it's called. And they basically are product designers at Stanford University in America. And they bring the theory of product design, or the practice, to life design. And it's just being detached, like we said, like shifting away from your identity, or kind of detached from the outcome, and knowing that you're a great person regardless of how long it takes you or what happens once you have your goal in mind. And it's that idea that you'll always have teaching as a skill. So plan C, I get my clients to do a plan C. That's like what would be the kind of the least favorable scenario, but still a scenario, depending on what your ideal goal is, that potentially you have to do a bit of training. Potentially you have to do something that you can't transfer into it straight away. Obviously you will try your networking, you'll try and doing like short mini courses that will help you, but it might just be one of those things. And if worse comes to worse, like, you could still do some supply teaching, you can still do some subbing, tutoring. There's so many other places you can work that are not schools. I know people who tutor children on movie sets. It could be working like in a jail with literacy. It could be working with like refugees, maybe in your home country, doing some like English second language literacy. And it's just that idea that, okay, if worst comes to worst, I can still do that, but I know that's only part-time. I'm still working toward my next career. So it really just depends. Like, most of my clients, they do plan A, plan B. They don't really go to plan C, but it's okay if you do. Once you know where you're going to eventually, it might just take that a little bit longer, but it's just to take away that pressure that you're like, there's only one option and I have to get it, and I'm a failure if I don't. It's not about it at all. Like, you've been in a career for so long, you're not going to suddenly like in a month or two, and that's fine. It's just once you know where you're going.
That's the hard part, right? Because I think for me, as I hear you say that, I think back to the work that I'm doing with young people that don't have career guidance, and most teachers never had career guidance either. They kind of found their way into education, either by an influence at home or maybe a teacher, but like you said, it's a very linear path to become a teacher. Now, for a teacher that never had that guidance, that are on that linear path, might be doing the job for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. What's step one? I know you talked about exploring, but it's like a really overwhelming step to take for a teacher that never really needed to take that. It was apply from job to job to job. So what would you say step one should be for a teacher that is open to trying something completely different, but also not wanting to go back to university and starting all over again?
What I would always say, I'm actually going to leave a question that they can help start thinking that journey, being really curious about everything. So when you're going around, when you're talking to people about their jobs, their careers, observing people around you, noticing their careers and thinking, oh, what do I like about their career? It mightn't be the actual job itself, but are there any parts that would be attractive to me? Like, we all have like some friends or who they got a job, you're not really sure what they do. Go and ask them and see like, oh, what does that involve each day? Oh, I would like that. No, I don't want that. So I'm just getting really clear and like, okay, my current job, what don't I like? Okay, maybe I don't want that. What do I do like about my current role? Oh, I like doing this. Maybe I like doing this pastoral care. Maybe I like data. Just kind of just like putting some things out. Like, I like some of these. Okay, it's a good start. And I would always say, like, a great question to ask yourself is like, back when you were like 7 years of age, or maybe between 7 and 12, what did you want to do? Because back then, this is before we developed self-doubt, before we developed, criticizing ourselves, before we started being conscious and, self-conscious and, cynical about the world or whatever. So that's kind of really what you wanted to do. Back then when every doubt and insecurity was taken away from you, what did you want to do and why? I'm not saying it's going to be the exact job, but whatever it was, explore, like, why did I want to do that at that age? I wonder. What did it give me? What did it serve me? What did I think I could do with it? What did I want to, and just starting that as a starting point, because there's always usually something in there. And a lot of my clients, it has linked back to what they wanted to do when they were like under 12.
I'm
Just
listening
explore
to
it.
you. I'm thinking back, and I remember two things that stood out for me right now. One was I wanted to be a professional dancer on stage, and the other was I wanted to be a lawyer. And I'm kind of thinking, okay, maybe I need to lose some weight to be that dancer. But actually, the dancing is still kicking in other ways, and maybe the lawyer makes sense. Yeah, but I love that you say that, because it's, tap into that time in your life when you didn't have to pay school fees or a mortgage, or your responsibilities that you have today as an adult. What is it that you wanted to do, and kind of reinvent that childhood career aspiration, which I absolutely adore. But you know what? We know what the world is like, Circa. We know that teachers will kind of be, I don't have time for that. I don't, that was such a long time ago. I just need to know, how do I, what do I do next? Would you say that they have to make the time, or would you say, well, just find that next thing for you? I mean, how do you overcome that skeptic that's kind of saying, I don't have time for that, Circa. I don't have time to explore. I have too many other things to do.
Again, I would go back to that vision of where you see yourself in 5 years.
Mm,
If it's not teaching, it's only yourself who you're hurting. It's no
yeah,
bearing on my life if you do it. It is no bearing on the student's life. They'll be gone on in your school.
yeah.
I mean, your admin are probably delighted that you will stay on, because great, you're a good teacher and everything. So, really, I would say it's the one time you might have a chance to actually prioritize yourself. Like,
Mm,
you've worked hard, you have achieved all these amazing things. You have probably always been the well-behaved person. You followed the rules, you went to university, you got your grades, you did everything right. And that's amazing and it served you so well so far. But if you're not happy in a job where you spend like, it's not even like, I'd say 5 days, like 40 hours. I feel like in teaching, you probably spend about 50, 60 hours at least, and
mm,
more when it comes to observations, probably like 80 hours a week. That's a long time of your life if you're not happy. And if you're feeling empty and feeling a bit either underutilized. And that's one thing I would say, actually, I find with people who come speak to me, such a talented bunch. And their roles aren't reflecting that. Their roles in their school aren't playing to their strengths. So I
mm,
honestly think actually it would probably even just a bit of a shift with leadership, really, and line managers getting to know your teachers, getting to know their strengths, and then putting them in roles where they can excel in their strengths rather than doing things that they're not really enjoying. That I think would actually satisfy a lot of teachers, and they wouldn't mightn't leave. It might delay them leaving for a while. We're also expats, right? Unless, are you planning to stay in your expat country for the rest of your life? Okay, probably most of us aren't. Do you want to teach when you come back? No. And to UK, Ireland, America, a lot of people are saying no. So it's going to happen, and it's like it's that idea of that. Do you want it to be ready when it happens, or not be ready? Really, I would say it's just that idea of like, where do I see myself in 5 years? My most successful, happiest self, and is that person worth prioritizing or not? That's really, it's a matter like of priority. There's also a matter, what I would do with my clients as well at the beginning. It's not in a session, but I have a pre-recorded video. I get them to write down how much time they spend scrolling on Instagram, how much time they
mm.
spend on Netflix binge watching. Like, it doesn't require hours and hours. It could literally be like, if you just give yourself 2 hours a week, and that could be divided each day, depending on how best you work. Some people love getting 2 hours and do, and some people love like 20 minutes each day. So just find out what works best for you.
You know what I appreciate, Circa, is what you said a couple of minutes ago, and that it's not going to make a difference to me or your students if you do it. You've got to want to do it. This idea of trying to find time, an individual who wants to take that step, a teacher who is considering that next milestone, they'll make the time. And and this is what I see in corporate work, that professionals, they're not waiting for their line manager to give them that head of department role.
Mm.
They're already applying for those other jobs. They're already looking for opportunities. Every time they're out networking, they're already meeting people that are going to potentially think about them for that next job. And I think this is where teachers are limited. We're limited to the school we work for, the department we work for. And let's be very transparent, right? And in any organization, not just in an educational institution, your line manager isn't really invested in your career growth. And this doesn't matter. It's not personal. They're interested, they're invested in the agenda of the institution and where that school has to go, as any organization would be. So I really appreciate, in you saying, listen, you need to want to do it. If you don't want to do it, it's not going to impact teachers, other teachers or students or anybody. It's really going to impact your growth. So I think that teachers have to look at it that way. They have to look at their career growth in a proactive way. I completely align with that. We could go on forever, Circa. I know I'm rambling. So bringing our conversation to a close for today, everything that you've said in terms of how teachers can think differently about that next career milestone, the one thing that is highlighted for me is take the time to do the research, take the time to reflect on your next steps moving forward, and also really reflect on how you are connecting the dots between you as an individual and your identity as a teacher, and maybe change that narrative. What would one last golden nugget be that you think, if you do this one thing, you'll feel more empowered in your next career journey as a teacher?
I would say I think there's strength in numbers. So anything is hard when you do it on your own. So
Mm,
whether it's finding like-minded teachers and you meet up every week and you talk about it, whether it's working with a career coach or a career strategist, or whether it's talking to a teacher, using them as a mentor who's left teaching and they're like your mentor. Like, I think really having that accountability, having someone to answer to, because if it's just yourself. Oh, and also, I wouldn't tell anyone you're thinking about leaving teaching until you've got a plan, a solid plan,
mm,
because people will project their own stuff onto you, particularly like cautious parents from a different generation. And, oh, and you already will have enough kind of like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Even though in your heart of heart, you are, it's just a bit uncomfortable because it's new, but you don't need anyone else telling you, projecting their fears on you. So I would say,
mm,
honestly, don't say it until you're actually like, I've got a plan, I've been accepted in this course, or I've got an interview for this new job. Like, I literally would not say it or even get the job and then tell people, because people will try and discourage you just their own fear, or because actually they don't want you to leave this school or something. People will
mm.
discourage you. So that, I'd say, and that having accountability is really helpful too. One thing I would say is, well, when people have some careers, then it gets exciting. Once you've done that exploration, you've got like a list of things to explore, it doesn't become such a chore. So I'd say persevere through the self-exploration phase, because once you've got some careers that sound exciting, it's like, you probably know yourself, like working with young people, they're like, of course, they're interested in this career. And you're like, oh, that was like, it wasn't around in my day. That sounds really cool. And the same for adults. They're like, oh, I've never heard of this. Sounds class, or, this is something. And then once you get that excitement, then it's not a chore. They want to go and explore because they can see
Yeah.
it's actually a feasible next step for them. So just persevere through the self-exploration, especially if you've never done it before. It's going to bring up discomfort and tears, and it's going to, because it is, so it's going to bring up all these things, but it's going to be so worth it then to get clear on what you really want in life and in career.
I love it. I love it. It is. It's stripping yourself of your identity and really saying,
Who
I
am
am
I?
not, I
I'm
am
not.
not my job. I am not like I work as a teacher, but I am not
Who
a
am I?
teacher.
Yeah.
That was a big one for me and still is a big one for me. And also it's like I'm not just a teacher. I work for this school, right? And I think as teachers, it's almost we forget where we and our role disconnect. Such a big one. Thank you, Circa, for being here with me and having this conversation. And we're having it at a time of the year when many expatriate teachers are having to make that decision. Do I stay or do I move on to something? Some of them are choosing, others have been told they have to. So it's a big time of the year. And I know that this conversation will hopefully bring lots of value to those individuals and maybe even some young people considering education as that next step for them. Thank you for being with me here today. And thank you everybody for watching. I look forward to seeing you all at my next Let's Talk Careers with Miss B when I bring another incredible guest.
Bye. Thank you.